Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Run It Up number 43. We are here today playing some 25-cent and 50-cent no-limit Texas Hold'em on ultimatepoker.com. And yeah, that's it. The beginning of a new week, Monday. It's gonna be a fun one. I'm excited. I know you're not excited yet. Just wait. We've done pretty well lately. We're on a 2-game win streak. We're up to $422 and some amount of cents. Looks like 17 could be. And so it's the one is not the best one that's ever been on that board there, but I think it's 17 cents. Don't worry, somebody will be whipped for that. Uh, gonna defend my button here at the 7-6 offsuit. I think it's fine. That is a not fantastic flop for 7-6 offsuit, but we will see. There is some chance we win this spot. Given that we were check 2, I think it's fine for us to bet once here. If either of these players continue, I will be unlikely to bet multiple times, but I might. Given that this player called so fast, I kind of have a feeling that this player is not that strong, because you think if he is a king, he would at least consider check raising. So his most likely hand seems like it's going to be like a 9 or some sort of like a straight draw. We did turn it open-ender, though, which is nice, so that helps me want to bet even more. So given that, we're definitely going to bet here twice, perhaps 3 times. Given that we got there, we are certainly betting now. It's possible that he has a hand like King 9, like he just has a full house and is just playing tricky, check call, but it seems to me like he's probably got a hand that might even have like a 10 in it, like a 10-jack type of hand. He could just have a 9. I don't want to shove even though he has pot size, even though he has pot behind. I don't want to shove because I think he's not that strong. So I thought if I shoved for 17, he would for sure fold. The fact that he folded on the 10 river, even for 12, makes me feel like our plan to barrel a lot of rivers was probably going to work, because 10 didn't really change a ton. So we probably would have bet. I mean, we were going to bet like a vast majority of rivers. So that probably means our plan was correct, given that our opponent ended up folding. So even though we got there and it looks like we got lucky, I think we would have won that pot way more often than not. It's a pretty good flop for the old Jack 5 offsuit. Going to start here with a min bet, 50 cents. No, thank you. We shipped that one. All right, quick little $11 so far. Looks like everyone's afraid of us. They're afraid of us in our 101 on the button. They're like, who is this guy making a 101? All right, well, it looks like we're being punished by the small blind here, who's decided to re-raise it 51 cents more. All right, let's see a flop dealer. Not the best of flops for the 8-6 offsuit, but our opponent has politely checked to us. So it's possible that this player misclicked pre-flop and accidentally hit re-raise. That would be a possibility. I think I'm going to start betting here, bet it for $1.50. I mean, there's some chance this player will just check fold. I think that an 8 or a 6 are both probably good for us if they turn. Also, there's some chance like the turn card will be like a 10 or a 9 or a 7 turns us a straight draw. Like, I felt like there were a lot of cards we could win. I think ace is actually like the worst of them. So I'm going to just check back now. And that's probably the end of bluffing for us this hand. 50 cents, you got it, kid. It's all you. Can't afford it. Not for me. You keep it. It's yours. Thank you, though. Over to the big blind we go with the old 6 and 4. Certainly going to be defending, even though he's dressed as a samurai. If it was real life and someone was dressed like that and raised in the small blind, I'd be worried. But thankfully, we've got the protection of the internet in front of us, so I think we just fold now with just 2 undercards to second pair. I think we just say no thank you. If we flopped a little bit better, we would have considered it, but I think we're fine just folding there. Over to us again in the small blind. I think we'll be defending like this. It's a little, we're short-handed, some little short-handed action. So we have done a really good job of putting a lot of money in this pot, given that there's not even $1. There's not even $1 in the pot and we have a set. That's always good. I thought that there was a decent chance that if we checked, this player would bet with something. There's so many hands are connected to this board in some way that I felt like we had a good shot at getting a check raise through. And I also felt like this player would be kind of sticky to a check raise. Looks like those things were all relatively true. going to bet here again. If we bet 4 and he calls 4, it's going to be 13.73 in the pot going to the river, and he'll have 12 behind, so we're pretty much setting ourselves up to shove the river, which looks like operation successful. Whereas in the other spot, I didn't think our opponent was probably strong enough to call a shove. I think in this case, our opponent likely is, or at least is likely enough to call a shove, so I bet $13. All right. There's always that. So, I think that I was right that he was strong enough to call a shove. I think that's just as much of a cooler as you can get. And, limp, flop a set. And then nothing, if a 6 or a 7 or a deuce or an ace even had hit, I would have slowed down. But given that how the board ran out and that our opponent put nothing, showed no signs of strength, I don't think there's any way that we could do anything besides what we did there. Just didn't work out for us. In this case, I think we just fold to this bet call thing going on here. I mean, again, there's maybe some argument to be made for calling, but I wouldn't want to raise as a bluff in a spot like this just because there are so many hands these opponents can be sticky with, and we just lost a hand. People could think we're tilted and steaming, even though, we obviously are not any of those things. I think we'll raise it up here. I was considering making it a little bit bigger than 101 just to get a little bit more money in the pot pre-flop, but I don't think it's really super significant either way. We could have made it $1.25. Looks like we'll be going to war here with our queen balls. Looks like we'll be going to war. I don't think it really makes a difference that we make it here because it's not really there's no expectation of pre-flop messing around, so whether we make it 11 or 10.50 or even 14, I don't think it makes a significant difference either way. Let's see the cards. Oh, just 2 kings, eh? We're going to need a king or an 8. All right. We're going to need to sweat a queen. Well, certainly a cooler there, 4-handed with $35. I don't think there's any real expectation of getting away from queens there pre-flop. Unlucky for our opponent. Lucky for us that we had the Toshiba drill all warmed up, We're on a heater. 2-game win streak, Nothing makes me happier than being on a heater, even if it is running up. I'll even tell you that. I have said many times that there have been sessions where I'll play an actual... There have been sessions where I played an actual poker session and won multiple thousands of dollars, and then went and played a run it up session and lost $23 and been so tilted. So I actually care about the run up bankroll way more than my actual current one. Most of the time. That just means I have to play bigger stakes in my regular game, I think. I think that's what that means. So we flopped the purr here with the post under the gun, and then this guy called behind, and then this guy completed in the small blind. I actually maybe should have bet this flop, given that it's going to get checked through so much, and that so often there will be a turn card that is an overcard to R7, and we probably have the best hand on the flop more often than not. Even on the ace turn card, though, the only person that can really have an ace reasonably here is this guy, because this guy just posted, so he can have any 2 cards. And this guy is in the small blind and completed, which could be, again, very wide range. So the only person that I'm really concerned about having an ace is this fella, who definitely could, but I thought that our hand is likely good enough, often enough to bet $1. We protect it a little bit from any other 2 overcards. We get a little bit of value from diamonds, and maybe in some universe a hand better than ours folds, 7-9 offsuit. It could happen, I'm not hoping for any miracles there, but I think it folds around often enough that works out for us. Ace-8 offsuit here. Against the limp, we could arguably attack this. There's no reason to assume that this player is particularly strong here. All he's done is attack a limp. So I think I am going to actually raise this up. I think that we could have made it maybe 7 would have been fine. I think 650 is okay. If he re-raises, we would just fold. But I think ace-8 is likely to be the best hand a good percentage of the time. I think he'll even fold some hands better than ours some percentage of the time as well. So if he has a hand like ace-10 or ace-jack or, even... No, I mean, I think I don't know for sure that ace-jack is folding, but I think there's at least some chance he folds ace-10 offsuit there, So that was my reasoning, and it seems like it worked out. It always works out for the Conor McGregor avatar. How could it not work out? We're a guy with a fucking leprechaun outfit. Of course, life is working out just fine. So it's Monday early afternoon. I for the first time for like okay, first time is too strong, but for like the second time in like 2 months since moving out here, I had an entire day off yesterday. I did nothing. All right, I answered like one phone call, but I did nothing, which like never happens. The problem, well, not really the problem, but I spent the majority of my day playing League of Legends, which didn't actually make too much forward progress. I have a bet on the table with a friend of mine. I haven't decided to accept it yet because I'm not sure I want to do it to myself. But I have a friend that offered me a bet for 5 grand that I can't make it to gold by the end of the season, and I feel like I can do it. But given where I'm at, I think I'm like 55% to do it. Sick cooler. I think I'm a favorite to do it, but it just seems like it's gonna take a lot of time and frustration, and I don't know. I don't know if I should opt into that, but I'm considering it. Obviously, I couldn't get boosted or helped or anything. Like coaching, I guess would be fine, but there's no like fine print. It would be a legit challenge. There would be no, oh, I'll just have my plat friend grind me up. No, can't do any of that. So video game prop bets are the best kind of prop bet though. Although I'm sure I'm stuck like 4 or 5 grand lifetime from my StarCraft prop bets from back in the day, which did not go so well. Dan O'Brien and I made a bet that we had to get to, I don't remember what I think it was Diamond. We had to get to Diamond in StarCraft 2 as a team by a certain time, and we definitely didn't. We lost that one for however many thousands of dollars that was. So you'd think that I would learn my lesson, but there's no lesson learning here. We just want to fire it in there. Let's get unstuck, boys. Gotta get unstuck. All right, so it looks like the action has kind of calmed down for the time being. Bro Pro decided to grace us with a post again under the gun. Thanks for the extra action. Just thinking about it, he's like, another quarter out the door, and he's mad about it because he's an ATM, So I'm sure he's real pissed. Tank. Nothing like posting under the gun and then sitting out. All right. Okay. So if our hand was a little bit better, I would probably just check. But given that it is 7-4 offsuit, I think I'd rather just raise. I think he'll limp fold here often enough, and we just pick up the 50 cents, the dead quarter, and his 50 cents. Even in this situation, I'm not really too concerned because often enough he'll just check fold here. Certainly often enough to show a profit for us. If he decides to continue, I'm probably done with the hand. If a turn card comes that either improves us to a pair, gives us pair status, then I might have continued some way, somehow. But looks like he just says no thank you, and we take that one. Over to the small blind we go with the old Jack 4 puppy dog feet. Looks like I think I'm just going to fold. As sad as it is to fold a suited hand, in the words of my good friend below above, every time he says it about himself, every time he folds a suited hand, an angel gets its wings. I feel the same way, We just say goodbye to the old Jack 4 offsuit, or Jack 4 suited, and, it feels weird. All right, well, I would guess the game is going to be breaking, given that I don't think this guy will play me heads up, but maybe he will. Stranger things have happened. If he decides to play us, we'll definitely play, but I would imagine that he can find better spots, but maybe he just doesn't care. Let's just gamble it up. All right. Definitely going to defend here with 5-8 suited. Certainly in a heads-up situation, that is a fine defend. We have a decision to be made between check raising and check calling, and I think I would prefer check raising. I think that there are many viable options. That both options are very viable and have benefits and drawbacks to them. A benefit to check raising is that we just drill the old 5 ball sometimes and are loving it. Gonna bet here again. You think if he has a single pair hand, like an ace 10 type of hand, that on this turn card he'd probably want to ram and jam just to kind of protect himself a little bit. Looks like he did decide to just fold. So we probably did have the best hand all the way through. It's possible that he had a better 8 than us, that we just happened to get lucky. But yeah, I think that the whole decision path, the there we go. I like that path best. The whole decision path as to whether you should check raise or check call. I think that whole thing comes down to your opponent, your history, what they expect of you, how they'll react to it. Like, there's so many like ingredients that go into making that decision that with a guy that we don't really know anything about, I don't think that there's one clear winner. And I think that I would like to err on the side of just straight up like simpler, easier to play, makes him make more mistakes, like those more like generically good things, which I think come with the check raising basket, you know. I think that makes more sense than to do anything else. So gonna be betting on this turn card because we have 3 of a kind. That's right. How do you like that logic? And given that we still have 3 of a kind, I will be wagering one more time. Looks like we'll probably be shipping this pot unless something very weird has happened. And he sits out. No, Jay Carver. Get out of here with your 3 of a kinding me. I can't take this. All right. Well, we did it. Old bearded Jay Carver. That's right. You're gonna see it in the wide shot. Don't worry. Just wait. That's right. The old run it up. I'm trying to grow the old leprechaun beard. The old Conor McGregor. You know. I'm only like 8 months away. 8 months on like an island away. So we shipped. What did we ship? We shipped 84.52 total, so we won 34.52. Don't worry, I'm not going to wrap the video just yet, but I at least want to account for this. So we won 34.52 plus, if it's not 17, somebody better tell me, because I'm taking it as 17. So we're up to $456.69. That's pretty good. Can't be upset about that. 3-game winning streak. The heater continues. Let's answer some questions. You know, I feel like I've got some viewer questions here that I haven't answered yet. There's so many emails that you guys have sent me to that Dear J Carver Gmail address. There are so many. Oh, somebody's sitting with us. Oh, maybe the games continue. Nope, not sit out. I meant to auto post. All right. Viewer questions will have to wait, unless this player isn't actually going to play. Nope. Fucker. The tease. Maybe we will play. Or he's just gonna do this whole thing again. Maybe not. Alright, let's hop back to this. Alright, we got ourselves a card game. The games continue. I'll do a couple of viewer questions anyway, because I have them pulled out here. They're on that email address. I must have like 50 emails that I haven't read. Like I haven't read most of them. I've tried to read. I'm gonna try my best to get. You know, I meant to use it purely to like read them on camera and not as another way to answer questions. But it's fine. I'll definitely answer questions also. But I didn't originally intend that email address for purely things to be read on camera. But yeah, let's go through some of these. We're going to open it up from an anonymous Run It Up fan who has requested to remain that way. In this spot against the guy I don't know. It's very close. We could call, we could fold, we could even re-raise arguably as well. Then he gives me a rundown if the 3-bet is too big. I don't think it's too big. I'm still going to call with the Queen 4, Queen 7 suited. Can't be too big if I'm still calling with Queen 7 of hearts, bud. I think it's fine. What's wrong with his 3-bet size? So, Interesting flop here. I think I'm actually going to call. Once in a while, a queen high is the best hand. Also, once in a while, he'll just check fold on a lot of different turn cards. I think we can continue here. We also can turn a heart, which would be great. We could turn a queen, which would be great. A king is less great. That's actually probably one of the worst cards because he has ace-king a lot, hands like that. Also, if he has a hand like two tens, he doesn't just check fold, he probably just check calls because king's not that scary. So we had some devious intentions, all of which ended up just equaling donating $8 to the guy on our left with the dog avatar. I think we know who won that encounter. That's right. It's not the leprechaun. All right. So we even did an end of day balance and everything, and then the war continued. People don't usually sit in once the game breaks. We raised it up here, blind versus blind. Could have also checked. That would have also been fine. Gonna start here with a bet. If he continues, we're probably gonna shut down on majority of turns and rivers. There's not too many hands that we have that have fours in them that would raise pre-flop. So I think we're gonna just check back here. If something scary rolls off, maybe there's some chance we can win this pot, but otherwise, I'm pretty sure we're just in shutdown central. I don't think that we're going to be bluffing here. I mean, there's a chance he has a hand as bad as like King Jack, which would definitely fold if we bet, but I don't know this guy well enough. We've never seen a showdown from this guy yet, so I'm not really 100% sure just how wide he is. Don't think that hand was folding. Yeah, doubt it. All right, 5-7. Very meh. Very meh, reg. Don't get excited, Very meh. I think we could argue for re-raising or calling here, both of which are fine. I think I like re-raising slightly better than calling. Not knowing our opponent, I think re-raising makes it slightly harder to play against. Our hand is slightly deceptive because we're repping hands that are like broadways and big pairs, and we show up with hands like 5-7 suited every so often. Well, now I would imagine that we're fairly behind against his range particularly. However, I think we're still going to end up calling here just because the price is too good. And we're deep enough that I think I can do things deceitful often enough to show a profit. Interesting flop. We flopped ourselves the gut shot, which is nice. I think that we're just going to have to check fold, though. I mean, there's no reason to suspect this guy's too weak. I mean, it's possible he has a hand like ace-king and we'll check fold, but if he has a hand better than ace-king, like a pocket pair, he never folds, and we're in really bad shape. So I think we've given away enough with these silly hands. He's saying fairly kind things. The only 9 fish are meh reg. I'll take meh reg. I've been called way meaner things than a meh reg in my life. Anyway, we were going to read this question, and we've been sidetracked significantly since then. These guys are coming in with the re-raising shoes on. Or their tank folding shoes, I suppose. Oh no, re-raising shoes. Well, if we're going to be calling with Queen 7, we're certainly calling with 2 9s. Let's see a flop dealer. We could also argue re-raising, getting it in, because we have seen them be kind of aggressive, but I'm fine with just calling with a hand like 9s. We still don't know these guys too well. Given that he checks in this spot, he bet the last time and he bet twice. This time that he checks, it's possible he could check raise us with a hand like ace-king here. That's certainly a thing that could happen. If he check raised us, we're probably just going to end up check folding. If he check calls, though, he could have a hand like jacks, queens, tens. Those are all possible. He also could have a hand like ace-queen, which of course now crushes us. All in all, I think that it's more likely that he has a hand like 2 tens, 2 jacks, 2 queens than having hands that are like... He could have ace-queen, that's possible, but I don't think he has ace-king. So I think there's a chance if we bet here twice, he'll fold a hand like 2 tens, right? Because what do we have? Like 5-6? Like... He calls us very quickly, which is unfortunate. So I would guess that we're losing this hand very often. I would guess we're losing this hand very, very often. I love the talking like it's gonna impact anything. I think we're just end up gonna check back here. Like it's possible that he has a hand like ace queen and just never folds, like we said. But even if he has a hand like 2 tens, I don't think he's going to fold that. at this point. King Jack definitely makes sense. He check called flop, which is fine. I mean, and then check calls turn, which he has to do, and then I think that makes sense. So I don't think there's anything too crazy to be said about that hand. I mean, it's unfortunate that we ran into it again, kind of there. We could have also re-raised pre-flop, which would have been fine. We just didn't. I mean, we could have re-raised pre-flop and got it in, but with the run-up bankroll considerations, we really shouldn't be trying to just jam it in there with 2 nines against a guy we don't know that well. But yeah. Gonna start here with a call in position. We could definitely argue for raising, but we do have, I guess we could actually argue for raising. At this point, we still have to call because now we have a pair to go with our straight draw. So we will be calling here as well. All right. Well, if we were ahead on the turn, we're certainly ahead now. The fact that he checks, I would think that if he had a 5, he would at least consider betting. But I don't know if he'll call with a 3. And if he has anything else that is a pair, we don't win. So I think I just check back at this point. Oh, just 3 of a kind. Cannot beat 3 of a kind, sir. Too bad a 6 didn't just roll off on the turn. The old 6er would have done it. King 5. I think we can start here with a complete. We'll certainly be calling a min raise. Can't fold to min raises here. Fairly good flop for us. We're going to start with check calling. I think that makes the most sense. Certainly we'll be check calling this. On this turn card, I think the plan is just going to be continuing to check call. Interesting. So I think that if we check and he has ace high, he just checks back here a very high percentage of the time. I think that I would like to try to bet something to get him to call with a hand like ace high, or maybe even queen high might call, just because we limped pre-flop and then called a min raise. Also, it gives him a chance to try to bluff us sometimes. If he has us beat with full house, or rather quads, it's just like, very unlucky, but I don't think that there's much we can do about it. I think I'm definitely going to re-raise, obviously, because there's no reason not to. I think the best thing to do here is to re-raise kind of smallish and kind of represent like a hand that we're just trying to put pressure on. Like, I feel like he's turning something into a bluff here, and I wanted to give him a chance to maybe potentially rebluff, but that's all pretty unlikely. Is this guy talking to me? Or is he just like asking who is Jason? I don't know. I'm clearly right here though. I don't know. Should I say hello? Should I say yes? Are you asking me a question? Are you asking is it me? I don't know what to say. You guys are watching me not know what to say. I don't know what to say. I'm gonna say hi. How about that? How about hello? Hello sounds more professional. Hello, you're facing a bet of $2.50. How can I help you? So it's possible we have the best hand here. It's possible that we do not. That's right. I think I'm going to check back and then make some decisions on the river. Well, I mean, we lose to 10-9. We lose to 8-9. We lose to pocket nines. We lose to king queen. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for him to bet an ace in this way, but I think we're gonna just fold here. Like, I just think there's too many things that beat us at this point. If we had bet the turn, it would have made the hand be a little bit more clear for us, because if he had check call turn and then bet out river, he's representing a 9, which wouldn't make a whole lot of sense. So well, thank you. I don't know what to say. I didn't know you were UP. I don't know what to say to that. Yes. Anyway, maybe we should do some of these viewer questions. I think that's what we need to do here. We're probably gonna play for a couple more orbits. I don't want to end on a loss though. Having been up like, what were we up like $30. I don't want to end on a loss. We got to keep the heater alive, even if it's only a slight heater. So we'll see. We'll play at least one orbit more. Okay, guess we'll be folding the 8-6 offsuit. All right. Anonymous team run it up fan. Dear Jay Carver, this young fella asks, or says, Dear Jay Carver, writes, I currently play in a no-limit hold'em heads-up sit-and-go with buy-ins ranging from $50 to $20. Ballin' hard, I know, right? Love it. Based on playing him/her numerous times, I've come to the conclusion that they are a calling station. That sounds about right for those sit-and-go buy-in levels, but can play tight and loose at some times. What is the best way to play against this person? Well, I assume that you are talking about multiple people that are playing usually two stationy, but also play tight and loose. So I think that when you're playing these low-level sit-and-goes, especially like with home games, it's a race to find who is the most solid. It's like literally a contest to see who is the most solid player there. So that could be you if you're aware of this. So given that everyone doesn't really know what the hell is going on in these sort of home games, the money typically goes to people that just play solid, don't do fancy things. Like, many of the things that you saw me do this video would be terrible in a $20 home game, because you're not going to be able to be deceptive or put pressure on people if they don't understand what pressure you're putting on. Like, you see it very often as a professional. You see like an amateur try to bluff, even professionals try to bluff another amateur, and they just like blast. Like, they just go bet, and the guy just calls with like king high or a bottom pair, and just doesn't interpret the bets to mean anything. Like, they don't speak the language of poker. They don't understand when you bet like that you're representing very strong hands. They're just like, herfty-durf, doing whatever, clicking buttons. You don't want to be bluffing that guy. You want to be the most solid person. You want to have top pair and bet and have them call with king high and was drawing dead from the beginning. You don't want to start out with a nothing type of hand and then put pressure. So it's one thing if they understand that kind of pressure, but if they don't understand the pressure, then, what are you going to do? Like, you shouldn't be bluffing. You should be playing very solid. In this particular spot, I didn't take my own advice and attacked to the limp, but it's fine. He limped, I raised. I think it's usually fine. And he didn't re-raise big enough to get me to fold, given that I have position and that we were deep enough to call. So mathematically speaking, I think both of our decisions were fine. Now that our opponent has checked, I feel like we have the best hand here a good percentage of the time with just a 4. If he check raises us huge, I guess I'll believe him. But we're going to start here with a bet for some value and protection. If he check folds, great. If he check calls, great. No ace and king would make me a happy camper. It's possible that he has a hand like 2 10s or 2 9s, something in that realm. He could also have a hand like ace queen and be like slow playing it, of course, something like that. Every once in a while, but for the time being, I think I'm going to just bet twice. I think I'm going to bet twice for value here with a 4. Don't think that there's any reason that I can suspect that he definitely could have us beat, but I think I'm going to assume that he does not for the time being until proven otherwise. Looks like we were right again tonight. That's right. Song lyrics from the 90s by Jay Carver. That is right. All right, so we got it done there with the old Jack 4 puppy dog feet. That's right, puppy dog feet never let us down. Raised it up here with the old ace 8 of diamonds. Did not flop a pair this time, but flopped it good enough to bet. Could have the best hand. Probably a slight favorite to have the best hand here. Would like to see button folds because we're going to win this pot so much more often against the big blind than against the button. Jack is not a bad card for us. I don't know if this player would fold a hand like a 5 if we bet here twice. I can't say for sure that he would. I'm not really sure exactly what this guy's tendencies are. I know he's somewhat aware of us, but I think I'm just going to actually check and probably fold. I don't have any reason to assume this guy is just like floating with like 10-9. You know what I mean? Like I don't have any reason to assume this guy has nothing, and I have no reason. I also have no information that this guy is going to fold like pocket sixes here. So if I knew either of those things, I would make different decisions. But given that I don't know enough, I think we just evaluate our hand against the hand that's probably straightforward. And he says, "Don't check raise." All right, you got it, kid. No check raise in here. All right. I I think we'll raise this up. You would only have a bluff catcher. I mean, you could also have a set, which would be also fine. But you know, that is what you would probably have, given that I'm pre-flop raiser and can have, you know, pocket kings and jacks, and you probably can't. Low limit table talk. It's a little. I guess it's adorable, is what it is. It's kind of adorable, I suppose, if it's going to be anything. So we could argue to check call on this turn. I think that would be fine. I think I'm going to just bet, though, for value and protection. I'm probably checking on almost all rivers, certainly. I mean, I don't think like I'm going to bet on this river because I find it hard to believe he's going to call us again if he has just like a no heart type of hand. If he bombs it here for like 15, I'll be very tempted to just fold. Oh, brother. Yeah, you could have value bet that. What do I have, ace queen? You know? I think you could have value bet. But hey, there you go. Another hand of poker. Anyway, let's talk. We finished talking about the race to see who is more solid. So we were talking about the playing in like low limit live home games and like how they're actually like structured and all that stuff, and like how what strategy makes the most sense. I think that, you know, the best thing you can do is not label people in terms of like this player always is tight. Like that's pretty bad. Like that's very rudimentary thinking, right? The best thing you can do is label people for proclivities. This player is usually tight is way better than this player is tight. Because when you're referring to that mental thought process later, you don't want to go back and think, oh, this player is tight, so I'm going to make decisions. You go, this player is usually tight, but how has he been playing today? How has he been playing recently? Has he had anything happen to make him more likely to be loose right now? What have I done? What has he done? You know. So I think when you evaluate those types of things, it's much better to think in terms of likelihoods than in terms of like, you know, absolutes. And you know, if somebody maybe people play tight when they're like facing the bubble. Maybe they play tight when they're tired. Maybe they play tight when they're hungry. You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of different things that can impact people's decisions. Even like me, for sure. Like, am I going to be super splashy when I'm exhausted? Probably not. Am I going to be super splashy at a game that's got, $100,000 buy-in in there? Probably not super splashy. You know what I mean? I'm going to be tighter. So I think that you should really try to take into account all the variables as like ingredients to your decision. And the more variables you can include in your decision-making process, the better. So, kind of interesting decision. I think that it's likely we have this guy beat, but I don't know for sure about this guy. You'd think that if this player had much, that she would have check raised. I think if we check raise here, this player is going to fold often enough that we end up having position against this player and maybe the best hand. But with position, I think we can get it done often enough. We're risking 6 to win 12. It was 12. All right, it goes call. So, club is actually not a bad card for us because of the fact that we check raised flop. If we had check called, we would have had a harder time representing clubs. But I think that if either one of these players had clubs, they would have probably re-raised flop at least some percentage of the time. Whereas we can certainly just have a flush, right? We just check raise and then we have a flush. So I think that if this player shoves, we're just going to fold. Either player shoves, we're just going to fold. But I think there's some chance that these players have single pair hands that will now just fold to us, which would be fantastic if that is what happens. It might not. Certainly possible. All right, one down. Interesting. Well, I think... See, the problem is that I'm really concerned that this player has a flush, but I think we have to just go for it, risking 22 to win 43. If he ever has not a flush here, like ace 10, we check back, it's such a disaster. If he has any club, he has to call, which would be really sad for us given the price. But let's see if we get it through, boys. Nicely done. We did it. I was a little not sure there. I was like, oh my God, he's going to call with like 10-7 with the 7 of clubs. We did it. Don't forget who this is sheriff, boys and girls. You know, once in a while, people have to be reminded. You know, we have to keep people on their toes, you know. So, yeah, that was a bit of a weird one. I'm glad we bet the river. Mathematically speaking, he's going to have more hands that don't have clubs than do have clubs, right? I mean, somewhat speaking, like, we don't know this player for sure, so it's hard to say. I think in this spot we can call another dollar to win 350. I'm not loving it, but it's probably fine. Yeah, so we had check raised flop, which I think is fine, and then definitely going to bet here with an open-ender, overcard, blah, 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 especially when it checks through on flop. All right. Interesting. So you would guess that this player would have bet if she had a 4 draw on the flop when it was checked to her. But what does she have at this point? I mean, you know, it seems like, okay. It seems to me like she didn't have too much. Like, if she had any kind of, like, top pair or big draw, she would have just bet flop. And that, given that she didn't, I felt that we could probably get away with the bluff on the river for, like, $5, that she's going to fold her no pair hands better than jack high often enough there. We've had some interesting hands this, like, second part of the session here. We splashed around for sure. We made some loose plays. I'm sure there'll be a couple of comments of like, you know, Jay Carver, what are you doing with your re-raising with your 5-7? You're awful. Jay Carver, you suck. I get those somewhat often. You know, hey, we splash around, you know? What can you say? We're playing 25 cent, 50 cent on the internet, you know what I mean? I've been playing poker for 10 years. We can get online a little bit. It's fine. You know, we'll make it up. We'll make it up for it in these like crazy check raises, bluffs on river with, you know, mid pair. That's the price you have to pay. If you're going to splash around and do silly things, you're going to have to get the job done sometimes with nothing. You're just going to have to, because you're going to have nothing often enough that, you know, every once in a while, you're going to have to give them the business, you know? I haven't even tried to say this guy's name yet, but PM Robe on Right has decided to shove here. I won't be saying his name again. I will not be saying his name again. But yeah, if you liked that, if I didn't answer that question we were talking about before, I think I did though. You know, you want to just play more solid, watch your opponents, get a feel for how they're playing right now. You know, if you know, try to understand what's happening and be aware of like situationally what's occurred to make people more likely to do one thing or another, and just try to play solid, strong starting hands. Like legit, no joke. If this was a $5 home game with stacks the way they are, you can still call it. That's fine. But if you were like shallow here and this was just like a sit and go, you would for sure just fold, or re-raise is fine. But you would for sure just fold, or you could call. I guess calling is fine if you're exactly as deep as we are, because we're so deep here. I think calling is fine. But if you're like, if it's, you know, 150, 300, and everyone has 6,000 chips, fold this hand. Fold it. This hand does not need to be played. Just fold it. You know, it depends on the format of the game. You know, playing cash games, playing sit and goes, whatever it is. If you're playing deep stack, if you're playing slow structure, like, you know, there's a whole bunch of variables that go into how exactly you should play. But typically speaking, you should be playing as solidly as you can play. That is an unfortunate turn card. Looks like we have the best hand on the turn. New question. A question from a fellow by the name of Kelvin. Dear Jay Carver, which he didn't actually write. The first guy wrote Dear Jay Carver, which got him big points in my book. That's why he was the first one. Dear Jay Carver, says Kelvin, I'm a new amateur starting to play more internet live poker here in Hong Kong, Macau. Great places to play live poker, I will say. My bankroll is about 10,000 US dollars. What type of blind levels should I be playing? 1, 2, 2, 5, 5, 10, etc. I think with a bankroll of $10,000, you should probably be playing. You should try to be playing something that you have like 30-ish buy-ins for on average. So you don't really have enough for 2.5. You should really have like 15,000 for 2.5. By the way, I don't know if you guys can hear that banging, but someone has been banging on something since about 9 in the morning here, which is 6 hours ago. So if you hear that repeated hammering, I'm sorry. I don't know what's going on, and I can't stop it. So welcome to my day. Welcome to my day here. Anyway, what should we be playing? 1, 2, 2, 5, or 5, 10, that kind of thing. I think 5, 10 is clearly way too big. 2, 5, I think is fine. You can definitely take shots at 2, 5, but I think if you lose much, you should really go down to 1, 2. Like, play the games that are good. Definitely play 1, 2. Definitely play 2, 5 once in a while. 5, 10, maybe you can mix shots in if you're really playing well. You feel like the game is good. You feel like you're on your game. Go in there, play 5, 10 for a night. Worst case scenario, you go in with like $2,000 and lose $2,000, then you go back and play 1, 2. You'll learn from that 5, 10 experience. Like, it gets you more insensitive to losing in the future. Like, it increases your tolerance for pain. I always looked at that. I always looked at playing high stakes as a complete free roll, even though it's not exactly true financially. But I looked at it as a free roll because either I played and I won money, which is always sweet, or I played and I lost money, in which case I got more used to losing money. Like, sincerely, that was the insanity of how I looked at things when I was like first starting into poker. If I go and lost 20,000, well, what's losing 4,000 once you've lost 20? And it's true. Like, I remember being such a brat when I was like 19. I used to say really silly things like, "Oh, I'd rather lose 10,000 in a day than go work for 20 an hour." Like, that's just so stupid, but it's very silly, but that is really how I looked at it. And that's not even like I was just saying it. It was truly how I felt. It was like I'd much preferred to be gambling and losing than, doing anything else. I don't think that's as true these days. I would prefer to be gambling and winning. And I think if I wasn't gambling and winning, I would probably prefer to be doing something else. But yeah, back when I was like fully consumed by poker, win or lose didn't matter to me. If you're a new amateur though, like you said in the question, you said you're new. I think you should definitely play 1, 2, 2, 5. 2, 5 is still going to be a big game, especially like I don't know how those Macau, Hong Kong games are set up, but I think they're probably uncapped, right? Are they uncapped? It depends on the structure, but you should definitely take some shots if you feel like you're playing well. Take some shots if the games look good. Don't be afraid to aggressively move down. Aggressively move up, but aggressively move down. There's nothing embarrassing about playing a 1-2 or a 2-5 game if you're not winning money. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like a great place to go back, regrow your confidence, rebuild your bankroll. I remember when I used to play cash online all the time, if I lost like 2 or 3 sessions in a row of like 5, 10 or higher, I would move down to 3, 6 or 2, 4 and just be like, okay, I'm moving down. It wasn't a big deal. All right. Big hand here for our guy on the left over there. I would just move down. You move down, you have a winning session, your things you do work, you have a little more leeway where like hands like my 9-6 shove might not work at 25-50, limit, like real 25-50, not the cents version. It works here. So like obviously that's a way big of an extreme. Like I guess I should say things more just like generally speaking, your plays are more likely to work with weaker opponents that don't necessarily interpret things, and it's just good to rebuild confidence, momentum, initiative. Momentum is a powerful thing. It's I definitely believe in like when a guy is on a heater and just everything is working, that's not the time to play that guy heads up. That's for sure. That's the time to do something else. Play different opponents. I think I'm not going to do anything here. I feel like anything this guy check calls with on the flop is not going to fold now. Maybe I could bet like $12, something like that. I could say I bet you your life. And then he'd probably fold. But, I don't think he's folding that hand on the river to any normal amount of things. By the way, I'm just gonna say that, you know, it's fine, online poker, we're all chatty, friendly, that's just cool and all, but I'm really not a big fan of talking about poker strategy in the chat of any type of poker game, whether it's live or not. Like, you know, it's a complete negative free roll to be talking about things like this when people just want to play, you know, like talking about ranges, this and that, and limping ranges. And, you know, obviously, you know, you guys that watch these videos probably have more likely than not have some concept of, you know, what ranges mean, like what you can show up with hands wise in some spots, but you don't want to talk about it at the table and make people feel, you know, you don't want to educate people that don't know about it that you're playing with, you know, especially if you're just a player. Like, you know, what I'm doing is a little bit different as a representative of Ultimate Poker, you know, like I don't care, we'll talk ranges, that's fine, I'm retired, you know, it's fine, whatever. But yeah, I think that if you're a player, you really don't want to talk strategy at the table. Very few things tilt me more than watching like three professionals be like, his range was so capped there. Oh my God, did you see him 5-bet with that? Like, it's like, oh my God, kid, just get out of here. Go back to the internet, you know? Like, you see it so often, and it's just like, why? What are you doing? These people just want to come and play and have fun and relax. And they just want to play a friendly game of cards, and you're in there talking about your VPIP and like, oh, this guy's PFR is like 0. I mean, like, come on, especially when the other player can hear you. It's just so bad. It's so bad. You know, this is obviously not nearly as bad as like people doing it live in person, which is way worse and probably happens way more. But you know, this is fine. This is just, you know, slightly being, in my opinion, too chatty with strategy. But it's fine. It's fine. Obviously, you know, it's fine. It's fine to talk to me about it. We're a pro, you know, okay, that's fine. But generally speaking, you should not be talking strategy at the table. Looks like we're going to do 2-hour-long videos back to back. I hope you guys enjoy it. I know you guys liked the last video, which was an hour long. So I actually kind of think that if you like these types of things where, like, maybe I can't do a video every day, but I can do an hour-long video every other day or so, I could probably do that. That doesn't seem like that's too hard to do for me. Well, I called the flop thinking I had the best hand, and now I'm slightly suspicious that I do not. But he only bet 50 cents, so how bad could it be? And now he checks. Well, if he has himself a deuce, will he call if he bet? I think I'm actually more concerned that he has like king high or like queen 10, those hands which can never call here. And I think that if we bet 150, there's a chance that he'll fold those. And if he has a deuce, maybe he folds them. Maybe. Through some miracle he folds. And we could just have the best hand, like I had suspected from the beginning. So, looks like we got that done there. Probably going to play here for the rest of this orbit and then wrap this video on up. I've got one more question here. Could re-raise, that would be fine. Could also call, that would be fine. I think I'm going to re-raise this. I think that's probably slightly better. Could have made it $4 because we're a little bit deeper than normal. That would have been fine. If he re-raises us like he did last time, we're probably still calling because he's going to make it like 8 1/4 like he did last time, which is small enough for us to call. Looks like this time he says no thank you, which probably makes our 5-7 call. Oh, well, you know, we can't go back and say anything. I didn't know exactly what his life was like back then. Like, I didn't know how he ran his life. So it's hard to judge, but I thought that was fine mathematically speaking, but it's very close. You know, I don't really, I'm not defending that one as being like the pinnacle of poker achievements I've had in my life. That re-raise defend, it's fine, I think, but you know, don't try it at home is all I'm saying. Anyway, question from a viewer named Aaron, or so I assume. Aaron asks, Dear J. Carver, he has 2 R's in his name, that's why I'm assuming. I don't really know, but I think it's Aaron. Aaron asks, Dear J. Carver, how do you beat someone? Also, I added Dear J. Carver because he didn't write it. Gotta write Dear J. Carver. It's the name of the email address, you know? Dear J. Carver, how do you beat someone who uses limp-in re-raise strat? It's really strong and hard to read, and I've seen people fall to it on final tables, such as the hand I linked in the video. Yeah, okay, yeah. So limp re-raising. How do we combat limp re-raising? Well, I think the first thing you have to do is test the opponent. Like when he limp re-raises, what does he have? When he limps, not even limp re-raises. The thing to test is that when he limps, is he a limp caller or is he a limp trapper? Does he do something different with limps under the gun? Does he do something different with limps in different positions? Like what exactly does he limp with? Like once you find that out, then you can make it a strategy that makes sense from there. We turn a gut shot, but I think I'm probably just going to check fold. I mean, given that he checks back on this board, he's probably in like one of those situations where he's kind of like made himself a little fortress where he just isn't going to get himself to fold. Like whatever he has, I have a feeling that given that he didn't bet, he's going to just call turn and then call river at worst, if not raise turn or raise river. So I feel like he's kind of piloted himself to a spot where he can't be bluffed, which is cool. So, all right. So we're done with this. I'll do the final math in a sec. So talking about limp raising, like I think the first part of finding that answer out is to test your opponent, right? Test him out, put him in when he limps, raise him, see what he does. If he limp re-raises, then great. If he limp calls, then great. You know what that is. And as the course of the night goes on, or the tournament goes on, or whatever it is, finding out what exactly he does and how he's adjusting to your raising and how what does he do. You got to kind of test the table, see how the table is reacting to him. It's all about kind of like finding out, you know what I mean? Like once you find out what he's doing it with, then you can develop a strategy that makes sense. So if he's typed to limp raises like ace, king, aces, and kings, and doesn't limp anything else because he limps under the gun, if that's the kind of guy he is, then don't raise his limps under the gun. If he's the kind of guy that limps ace, 4 suited under the gun, or a hand as bad as like 5, 6 suited under the gun, then you want to raise the shit out of that guy because he's limping with 6 high under the gun. You know what I mean? So you want to attack those types of guys if that's what they're doing. If they're limping really strong, then you want to stay away from those types of guys or just call behind and attack them post flop, when you have a kind of a good idea. Well, I limped under the gun. He's usually got aces, ace, king, or kings, and now the flop is, queen, jack, deuce, and I have, jack deuce suited, something like that, where you can reasonably know that you're probably way ahead of this guy, or you have queen jack as a fine example. You have top 2 pair, and the guy's either got ace king, aces, or kings. Well, we can go to town now because we have a pretty good feeling that the guy is A, strong, and B, pretty. Let's flip this over here. The guy is strong, and that the guy is strong, and that you've got the best hand more likely than not. All right, let's do some math really quick here. Don't forget, if you made it this far, don't forget to comment below with how you guys felt about doing an hour-long cash session, what you guys thought about hour-long sessions, less frequently longer sessions anyway. 1821, 422, 17. So 440 almost on the dot. 440, 38 cents. Looks like what we ended up with today. So yeah, pretty good job all in all. The 3-game win streak lasts. We had some weird hands. Oh, maybe we should do the recap here. So yeah, that's it. We had ourselves a day of poker. It was crazy because at one point in the session we were up a lot. We were up like $30 in the midway point of the session. We got lucky with queens against kings. We also should have lost that. But then the last half, we had a little bit of spew in like the 30 to 40 minute mark, and then we got there. We pulled out our our knife. We went into the cash game streets. We did our thing. We battled it out in there, and we made it happen. We got a job done. Some interesting hands in there for sure. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comments below. And if you got any questions that are meant for reading on camera, fire away at that dearjcarver@gmail address, and you might see your name up in the Run It Up lights. You never know. You might see it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you soon. Peace.